Welcome to 3D Politics Live. That's right, I'm David Van, filling in for myself and for Tom and the other two Davids. It is Corona Chronicles night tonight, and we're glad you're here. We didn't want to not go live tonight with all the things that are happening. But we've got a chase car out there giving reports from the field. David Oldham will be giving reports as the show goes on. We're going to try through the magic of tape delay and other techniques. We're going to be sure that we have multiple insights and points of view on tonight's show. David, glad you're here.
Hey everyone, Dave Oldham again, Constitutional Grounds here in the 3D Politics, Constitutional Grounds COVID virus chase car, looking to see if we can find any virus.
So what we've got to deal with tonight is what's gone on in the last week. 2 weeks ago, we had, kind of serious thought, well, it could affect some people, and a week ago we found out, what do you know? We're shutting everything down, and now we're finding out people are dying around us now. It's 2 deaths in Oklahoma, but it could be quite a bit more. And so we're going to talk about that. David's got plenty of things going on. The Senate bailout
Is that the Senate is debating a nearly $2 trillion bailout package. They are calling it the COVID supplemental or some sort of a program. What do they call it? But they're saying that it's not a bailout. We're here calling it the dictatorial ineptness a cover-up program, or the DICU program. The problem is that it's $2 trillion, as somebody argued today, a Republican argued today, it is vital for our children's sake, or grandchildren, or not born children, the next generation. So yeah, I'm wondering how spending $2 trillion of the next generation's money is somehow legitimate today. And again, what are we spending it for? According to James Langford, it's because the federal government has shut down the society and everything. He said we. And so he's part and parcel of what all the states and local governments have done, because the feds have done no shutdown. Donald Trump has not shut down anything. He has not had anything going on. And so all this shutdown, all this economic collapse, all these people who are having issues and problems because of all of the economic woes, those people are suffering directly because of the freak out of the general American public and the willingness of politicians to give the hysterics what they desire.
So that's the kind of things we're talking about. I do want to mention, for those of you parents at home, Sooner Politics covered a story earlier tonight. In fact, you can find us at soonerpolitics.org. You can, we'll have the link up on 3D Politics. So what we've got going on here is the state shut down all the public schools, the State Department of Education, except that they want us to still gather the kids together to get a meal. All kids who are of school age come get a meal. Well, but somehow we don't think that's actually causing a problem with spreading the virus. And then the audacity of our state superintendent of instruction, Joy Hoffmeister, telling the virtual charter schools, the only schools in the state who are actually set up to handle this and do the remote learning, and the very best one being Epic public charter virtual school. They're told, stop teaching. Tell your teachers no contact with the kids, period. No telephonic tutoring, no over the phone, no email, no guidance online, none of that. It's asinine. It makes no sense. And literally she is told, she says it would be like price gouging to let them continue on right now. So what I just got was a word from the one of the administrators of virtual charter school said that as of April 6th, only the virtual charter, the online learning, distance learning, if you will, only correspondence like that, which is not person to person in the same room instruction, that's all that's going to be able to go on. She's going to shut down the campuses for the rest of the year. Now, why in the world our Department of Education wants to become the new Health and Human Services and Welfare food distribution? I don't get it. They're prioritizing that over instruction. We already have an agency to take care of that. So we've got a problem with mission creep going on here in Oklahoma. We've got to fix it. We've got a story on that on SoonerPolitics.org. Jameson Fott has some good information going on right now about our legislature, what's going on with the issue of, our proxy voting, to where our lawmakers are going to vote on statutory law, emergency spending, all kinds of things, based not on them being present to vote, but passing off to somebody else to be their proxy. We've got issues with that. And we've talked about that already some tonight. So basically going to ask you guys to watch online tonight, tomorrow, pick up the podcast, watch later on. We're going to have a lot more going on as we do the editing. We don't have, a real fancy TV productions crew here, and we certainly don't have them here tonight. And so David's and I were talking about, David Oldham and I were talking about naturopathic medicine. I'd like to hear more.
It is just amazing to me, but I come from a different healthcare form of healthcare, and was my biggest argument at the time against Obamacare was because I didn't use anything that Obamacare would pay for. So why should I be paying for something that I'm not using? Well, I'm still not using it. Haven't used it for 30 years. Not going to use it. Not going to pay for it. So what are we to do? If everybody else would join me, this whole thing would go away. But that ain't happening. People, again, are in hysterics. So anyway, we're out on the town. This is not to make light of the people who have had COVID, who are suffering from the coronavirus or whatever other virus.
Yeah, the impact is near us. So I know David's been out there. We call it our chase car, and I understand that you've been reading up on the governor of New York, or maybe it was some agency in New York, is actually giving tips on how to survive sexually in this time of crisis.
Wanted to let y'all know some more news that discovered today. Apparently, New York City has put out a COVID pandemic sex guide to make sure that people are able to, I guess, have sex while they suffer. But their first point, after suggesting that you completely abstain, and you beware of anybody else who could potentially have anything, is that your safest sex partner is yourself. We'll post the link in the video description, but New York City, their health department for New York City has the pandemic sex guide. So if you have any questions, it gets pretty gross. I'm not going to talk about everything that they mention, but they definitely get into some areas. It's short, but they get into some areas that I wouldn't even consider a thing, but I guess other people do.
So we've got David's going to be talking to us more about that. And then the other thing I want to talk about is how's the public reacting to this? So, and again, those of you watching live, you're getting a taste of what's going to be filled in as the videos, which are, you can't see them now, or maybe you can, depending on when you're watching this. We've got some of our guys filing remotely. By the way, I talked to all the guys. Everyone's doing fine. David D'Ambroso's got, little babies in his home, and he's taking care of them, as well as Tom's got the kids at home now, and he's helping his wife share the duties of parental supervision. When you got kids that usually are at school, and now you got them all day. For some of us homeschoolers like Oldham and I, that's nothing new, but for others, it is a little bit different. So those are some of the impacts.
It is a real thing, and we do need to be sensitive to those people. But quite frankly, the people who are dying from this are those with comorbidities or other factors, and quite literally, it's the other factors that without those, you could easily survive the coronavirus from everything that it's looking like. We've now had 2 deaths in Oklahoma, both here in eastern Oklahoma, one somewhere here in Tulsa and another one in Cleveland. Both men in their 50s, so just a little older than me. And those men, I think they were all in their late 50s. And so they have had issues. But this is why I say we all need to be proactive. We need to get out and do what we can to strengthen our own bodies. Those of you who know me know that I play soccer every week. And right now I'm feeling it because I'm not getting out to play because everybody's so afraid of the coronavirus that they've shut all the facilities down, including the facilities that are outdoors. And I guess it's just because we could, soccer is a contact sport, and you do brush up against other sweaty guys and stuff like that, and they're afraid that we'll be passing it somehow just in the course of play. So anyway, but do the things you can do. On a bright note, while so many things are down, it was a good sign to walk into numerous Walmarts, and I have to be there for work, but numerous Walmarts and other drug and various retail stores that sell these kinds of things, and see all the stores completely bought out of echinacea and golden seal, which is key to keeping infections and mucus and so forth from thickening and giving people problems with their breathing. like we're seeing with coronavirus. So some good signs. There's all too many people don't know about it yet, but I'm hoping that more people will discover some of these alternative forms of healthcare. And as they do, hopefully we will see more people actually prepared for the next time one of these comes out, and we won't see quite the freak out.
Other things we want to talk about, Oldham, of course, been out all day in the chase car. He's looking for it. I want to hear what it looks like in the store, what's happening with people trying to get the goods they need.
And then in other news, while the Senate is debating spending another $2 trillion of our dollars that nobody has, there was news that there were 700,000 unemployment claims last week. So the number of people who have been put out of work are at least at 700. I know I've talked to several people who were concerned about their jobs. A company I do work for had laid off a bunch of people. And so we're very concerned about the economic aspect of things. Store shelves are still short. I think this was because of the mass buying that happened right at the beginning. People got while the getting was good, and I don't know if it's just the supply chain hasn't caught up, or if the supply chain is itself affected by people not supplying. So I'm working on digging into that information. If any of you happen to know what the answer is, and whether the supply chain itself has been damaged, or whether it is just it wasn't prepared for the onslaught, please let us here at 3D Politics know. Me over at Constitutional Grounds, love to have the information on that, so provide links and so forth, if you would. Appreciate knowing that.
And then let's see, I want to talk about the dictators. Actually, Oldham, you got something to say on that.
More cities in Oklahoma have gone the way of the dictate. They have ordered all of their licensed taverns and restaurants to at least close their dining portion of their facilities. They can still have people come in and do takeout, or do a drive-through, but they are closing their dining facilities, and they're forcing these closed, and by dictate from a supposed lawful ordinance or something like that. And for those of you who know me, you know that I advocate that there is no such thing as a lawful dictate in the United States of America. And I don't care what it's for, whether it's for your own best interest. No one can order you to do something. We do have a duty to our neighbors to not be spreading the virus, but this new notion that somehow society is sterile and can be made sterile, and each of us can be made sterile and free from any potential pathogen, is ludicrous. We are not in a vacuum, and not that things couldn't exist even in a vacuum, but from our understanding, generally they don't. We don't exist in such a situation, or such an environment, and so it is ludicrous for all these supposed experts to be coming on and trying to become the health dictator, the health emperor, and It's like one commentator was saying today, turn everybody, everybody wants to turn the world over to Fauci and have him be the health emperor. And I thought that was a good point, because it is not a good thing.
So we're going to be talking about what's going on more as the federal government and our state government decides how they're going to deal with it. I know I had a story last week, came out after our show, about we decided to make up some new rules about representative government and how our representatives can now, under these special rules, pick representatives of their own to go represent them and therefore represent us. A week ago, our legislature was supposed to be on break. They were called in, I believe it was on Tuesday morning, for a part of the regular session, meeting that was called particularly to deal with contingencies. And we're getting into constitutional and very principled issues regarding representative democracy. What came as a result of that is an unprecedented rule, a Rule 15 in the House of Representatives Handbook of Legislative Rules. They've always had 14, now we have 15. And it allows for proxy voting. Our representative form of government is now allowing our representatives, who we voted for directly, to then select another representative to go in their place of their choosing. That has a lot of people concerned, and it should have a lot of people concerned. What came about after that was a very interesting dialogue on SoonerPolitics.org's Facebook group, where we discuss a lot of the issues that come out in the news that we cover and other newsmakers cover. My former state senator, Don Rubottom, who has been a clerk of the Florida House for much of the last 20 years and served in other capacities, after leaving Oklahoma, after leaving 8 years in the Oklahoma Senate, really had problems with this. He began a dialogue with no other than our House Majority Floor Leader, John Eccles, a man I personally admire, a man who's been a straight shooter with me. And the two of them had a pretty strong debate. The Judiciary Committee Chair, Chris Kennedy, stepped in. It was a pretty blunt, and that's John Eccles, one of the humblest men I know, one of the most approachable men serving in our legislature. But I want to encourage you, go to Sooner Politics, click on the editorial tab, SoonerPolitics.org, and scroll back a week. There's a lot that's happened since then, so there's a lot of stories. You'll have to scroll back, but take a look at that. So
we have more numbers going to come out. David Van Risgum is going to present some numbers. I'll have to see his numbers. I haven't had a chance to see them yet. Some things to think about. When you are talking numbers, we have to go along with the numbers. You have to ask questions. One, what do the numbers represent? Number two, what are the reporting criteria for those numbers? So, it's like you have deaths or COVID cases or deaths from COVID. Where do they come up with these numbers? Are there comorbidities? Were they on death's door and the coronavirus just kicked them through it? Or what? Apparently in Italy, the numbers were if they had coronavirus, it was just, and they died, it was coronavirus. And all of the other issues that were about to kill these people were left out of the reporting. So when you examine the numbers in comparison to the normal death rate, the numbers appear to be extremely small. And the numbers of deaths, when you start looking at the other things that were killing these people already, they become just pretty much in line with the normal death rate. So, as I have said time and again, I believe that the vast majority of this is hype. Certainly, the dictatorial grab is using the hype, using the fear-mongering, which, by the way, remember, that's how media makes its money. You don't turn in unless there's a crisis. I don't tune in unless there's a crisis. Except now that I'm doing this, I tend to tune in just to look for production value things that I never paid attention to before. But without a crisis, you're not going to be tuning in.
Okay, and yeah, I need to talk about the numbers. All right, here's the deal on the numbers. We don't even know which numbers we can rely on, and it is early. The numbers, the largest group of numbers, the largest modeling, if you will, you'll hear people talking about modeling so that we can forecast what's ahead based on what's behind us or what's under the belt, well, here's the deal. China, we don't know what's true because they've lied so many times. They're motivated to lie. They have propensity to lie. I would not trust China on any reporting of this. Now, if you've got some direct impact with people who you can be confident that they're actually telling you the truth without fear of recompense, such as the doctor who first reported this and now is dead, and ostensibly reported that he died of the very disease he tried to warn us about. So we've got that. But my concern is we're using the wrong numbers to determine the death rate. We're looking at those people who have contracted the disease, and then we're comparing it to those who have died from the disease. Well, the problem is most people who have contracted the disease are still fighting off the disease. We don't know what their ultimate situation is going to be. So the best numbers we can look at is those who have recovered versus those who have succumbed to and died from this disease. And early on, of course, it's going to look like, everybody dies, right? Because if nobody's yet recovered, and this is an illness that you got to plan on a couple weeks, quite often 3 weeks or more before there's a recovery. Most of the people who've contracted the disease still have it. And thus, the numbers look, skewed to like, gosh, half the people are dead who've contracted the disease. But again, that's because you're comparing, people who've recovered to people who've succumbed and died. So we've got that.
I guess we're on live. This is David Oldham from Constitutional Grounds reporting in the 3D Politics Constitutional Grounds COVID chase car, sponsored by the Chinese Restaurant and Importers Associations, and also the Corona Beer Company. We're out looking for virus today. Of course, there's virus news everywhere you go.
And so I'm David Van for 3D Politics Live. I want to thank you all for being part of what's going on for all of us here, and for Oldham, for Tom McKay, for Dan Broso. I want to thank you all and hope you guys stay healthy. And we will see you again next week on 3D Politics Live.